Welcome to the Plant-Free MD podcast with Dr. Anthony Chaffee, where we discuss diet and nutrition and how this affects health and chronic disease, and show you how you can use this to optimize your health and happiness, both mentally and physically. Hey guys, just want to take a second to thank our sponsor, the Carnivore Bar. I don't promote many products because honestly, all you need to be healthy is to just eat meat. But for those times that you're out hiking, road tripping, or stuck at work and you want a nutritious snack that is just meat, fat, and salt if you want it, the Carnivore Bar is a great option. So I like this product not because it's just pure meat, but also because I want the carnivore market to thrive as well. And the more we support meat-only products, the more meat-only products there will be available in the mainstream. So if this sounds like something you'd like to get behind, check it out using my discount code Anthony to get 10% off, which also applies to subscriptions, giving you 25% off total. All right, thanks guys.
Okay, so now. Okay, my name is Kevin Stock, and I'm excited to be on this carnivore panel. Quite honored, actually, because I've had the great pleasure of getting to know these superstars over the years. And so we'll do brief intros if you don't know who they are yet. And then after that, we'll just dive right into Q&A. Feel free to ask general questions, or you can pick out someone you want. Like if you want to pick on Dr. Baker, just call him out. And so, yeah, that's how we'll run this questions. I think we line up right here in the middle, and then we'll go from there. So anyways, again, my name is Kevin Stock. I'm a dentist. I have been endlessly obsessed with nutrition for my entire life. And I'm fascinated by the mouth and how it gives us so many clues about what we are designed to eat. And when we eat a diet, if and when, that's incongruent with this design, how we can see that in the mouth. And so I've been collecting these clues for many years. And I don't know if I just want to give away the punchline, but I think these clues, when I add them up, they spell out carnivore diet, or at least very heavy meat-based diet. So Anthony, you want to take up introductions and then we'll just...
Hi, I'm Dr. Anthony Chaffee. Some of you may know me just from my podcast and YouTube channel. I've been interested in diet and nutrition and how that affects health and chronic disease for a number of years, going back about 20 years since my undergraduate degree. And I've noticed that personally and professionally that making small dietary changes, maybe major dietary changes for some people, but simple in any way, can cause huge benefits to people's health and lives, and that's something that I feel very passionate about, so that's why I speak about that.
My name is Spath, and I am not a doctor. I have no certifications, I have no qualifications, I have written no books. I work a full-time corporate job, and I'm a mom, and my weight was out of control. And I lost 120 pounds in 10 months with a carnivore diet and fasting. And I thought, okay, great, cool, done, did it. And I realized it wasn't that easy, and that maybe I had deeper issues with food. And so for the last 4 years, I have been kind of figuring out how to not gain it all back again, and to just be on a carnivore diet has been what's given me the most freedom and the ability to stay healthy, be active with my kids, and not have this obsessiveness about food constantly every day. So.
And hi, I'm Ade, otherwise known as Black Carnivore, and I also have no certifications and no professional qualifications, but I had such a great experience on the carnivore diet, and I knew that I wanted to share this with other people. And particularly in the Black community, we struggle with metabolic diseases like hypertension and diabetes. So I knew that this way of eating was especially important for my community. And with the rise of veganism and raw veganism as a health modality in the Black community, I knew that we needed to have a voice that was speaking up for the benefits of a meat-based diet. So I decided to start my platform and just, try to share the voices of lots of all kinds of Black people who are having success eating this way, so that, that testimony will be what will help other people to decide to give this a try. The studies are great, but, not everybody is convinced or interested in the studies, but when you see your aunt have a fantastic experience, that can get you going. So that's what I aim to do, and you can find me on YouTube or Instagram at Black Carnivore.
Hey guys, my name is Judy Cho and I'm known as Nutrition with Judy. I'm also known as the People's Nutritionist. I am board certified in holistic nutrition and I am the author of Carnivore Cure. I have a private practice and we focus on a root cause healing with a meat-only elimination diet, and we believe in wellness for all.
I'm Shawn Baker, and I'm just a guy that likes to eat a bunch of meat.
All right, and we can start taking questions.
Hello, my name is Autumn, if you guys don't know. So my question is, should I make it a point to integrate organ meat into my diet if I don't necessarily like it?
Judy, you want to lead us off?
So I used to be a really big fan of organ meats. Obviously, if you look into nutrient density, there's no argument about the amounts of nutrients in organ meats. I think that we can overdo it. I think there's a tendency where if something is good, we want more, and if there's something bad, we try to just stop it. But there's nuance to it. As I've done research and I've worked with a lot of meat-only carnivores, I've seen people have signs of vitamin A toxicity, and as well as you can consume too much liver, which then has a lot of purines, which then can break down to uric acid. If you're adding foods, there's risk of gout. So I am of the proponent now where I think you should limit your liver, if any, and if you don't really need it and you don't really enjoy it, I don't think we need to spend that extra money on organ supplements. I actually recommend my clients to stop all of them and to see if that'll improve, because I promise you that most of my clients that start working with me, that meat-only carnivore is not working, they're all taking some type of organ supplement because they don't like it, but they're told if they're not feeling better, you gotta add in the organs. But that may actually be why they're not feeling as good. So I think it's very bio-individual. It really depends on the person. If you're anorexic, you've been under eating, or some other medical condition, you may want some liver, but of course eat it in accordance to the animal size, which then you're probably not eating it every day. But when I see people eating 6 ounces of liver every day, it's personally, I think it's a cause of concern.
Your question was, do I need to eat it if you don't like it? I'd say probably not. I've been collecting data. I've got data from 12,000 people who have done a carnivore diet, and really the outcomes were no different than those that ate and those that didn't as far as disease reversal. Harvard University study that looked at this, and 2,000 people, and if you read the body of the text, and I actually asked them to include this in the study, and they had the same conclusions. It made no difference. There were no higher incidence of nutrient deficiencies, no higher incidence of complications, whether you choose to eat organ meats or vitamins or not. And so, if you like them, eat them. I don't think there's any problem. I will admit there are people that will say they feel better when they eat this or that, and that's fine. But to be under the impression that you must include it to be complete or optimal or thrive, the data just doesn't support that. And so, like I said, I'm not against eating it. I don't like them, so I'm not gonna eat stuff I don't like. I don't think a diet that's sustainable includes food you don't like to eat. Now, of course, the counter to that is why don't we just eat cake and ice cream all day? But again, that's not really a realistic argument. So the answer for me is no, you don't need to use them.
Yeah, just say, I would agree with all that. And if you look at native populations like the Inuit, they traditionally don't eat the organs at all. They would feed those to their dogs. You look at the Lewis and Clark expedition across the U.S., same thing. They would eat the fatty meat, and they would feed the leaner meat and the organ meats to their dogs. And in fact, they found that the people that didn't get enough fat, those are the ones that were dying on these expeditions. So it's not something that I don't think that you need. And just like Judy said, you can eat it out of proportion as well. If we're hunting and we take down an animal, how many hundreds of pounds of skeletal muscle and fat is there going to be to every 1 pound of liver? Okay, it is literally going to be hundreds to one. And so if you're eating, outside of that proportion, maybe you're eating, half of your, or even a quarter or a tenth of your calories are from liver every day. That's out of proportion. And liver is very nutrient dense, but therein lies the problem. It can be too much. So vitamin toxicity is just as dangerous as vitamin deficiencies, and so it's just something to be mindful of. And I would certainly agree if you don't enjoy it, that's probably a good sign that your body's telling you, like, oh, actually, you don't probably need this. Things generally taste better, I've found, if your body wants them. And so if you're deprived of a nutrient, liver might taste amazing. And if you're eating a mixed diet, you certainly do need a different constellation of nutrients. As your nutrition requirement, your vitamin requirement will be higher for certain things. And so liver is probably your best friend. But if you're just eating meat and you're not eating the other things, you get everything you need from that meat, and it could be in excess if you're eating a lot of organ meat.
Well, this is very exciting news. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
Hi. I'm almost 3 years carnivore, and even though I started it for weight loss, I continue it because it makes me feel amazing. I don't have any aches and pains. My skin conditions cleared up, and my mood improved. So my question is for the whole panel: since we are in such a profit-loving society, and carnivore doesn't necessarily give a lot of profits, do you have any ideas on how to get it out more mainstream, so that it can help people, but the powers that be that love their profits can't really make money off of it?
Great question. All right, Anthony's chime in.
Yeah, sorry. Everything has to do with markets, right? So if you have a market driver for something, like if there's a higher demand for meat, people will try to meet that demand in order to make a profit, and so that's what we need to do. We just need to keep promoting it, keep buying it, keep pushing it. And the more of a demand there is for meat, the more that will be supplied, and because people will be able to make money off of it, and that's true. And if you don't buy into the whole processed nonsensical garbage that they're putting out here, and there's not a market for that, they will start losing money, and that will go away. And so that's just a natural progression of a free market. The problem comes with you have government intervention, forcing markets and picking winners and losers. That's a difficulty, and that's something that needs to be addressed in other means. But as far as markets are concerned, just keeping that demand up is the best way, and then not giving them a demand for processed garbage.
I'm sure people can talk to the bigger picture, but you have an amazing story. Share that story with people in your community. It's a ripple effect. I know without social media, my husband and I were living this lifestyle, and my mom saw the results, and then she changed. And then her brothers saw those results, and they changed. And then their coworkers saw those results, and they changed. And there's this thousands of people that all changed just because my mom made this decision without all of the social media videos. You have impacted, with your story, I'm sure, more people than you even realize. And I think then, like Dr. Chaffee said, being able to then shop, purchase, buy those products that you're supporting, I think we make an impact just simply by impacting those around us and then trying to help that spread.
Yeah, and as Dr. Eddie said, there is no shortage of sick people, but not everyone wants a research study. A lot of times those testimonials, like you're saying, those go far further than any kind of Harvard study that we might get. So if you want to add on to that, great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just telling your story is incredibly powerful, and you really don't know how many people are watching you. And there'll be lots of people who in the beginning, they see you lose 10, 15 pounds and they're like, oh, she's crazy. But once they see you having lots of energy, being up all day, being able to do all of this stuff, having the mental stuff, their people are watching you, and eventually they will start to ask you questions. But I also wanted to speak to the other point about, I am concerned about, our access to meat. I am concerned about the fact that, we're eating a whole foods diet. There's not really a lot of stuff to monetize. And so, I think that it can be a problem. But one of the things that, you can do and we can all do, is when you go to your supermarket, they want to provide the products that people want to buy. So you got to just say to your, supermarket manager, I want more fatty meat. Can you bring more of that in? And the more they hear it, they actually will provide it. So that's another way that we can have impact and make sure that we have that stores and these industries understand that there is a demand for good quality meat.
Dr. Baker?
Yeah, I think on the speaker's part about profit. And so we think about who's profiting right now. Well, junk food companies, pharmaceutical companies are profiting on our illness. And, that there's a net sum of zero. And so what you can do is, where's that money coming from? It's coming from its consumers. But in many cases, companies are spending a lot of money on employee health care. They're spending a lot of money they're losing a lot of money on lost productivity. And so if you restore health to people, that money that would otherwise be spent on illness can now be put into the productivity side of it. So it is valuable. There is inherent value in good nutrition and health. And it's just taking the money away from the pharmaceutical companies and the people that are feeding us junk food and moving that money either in less losses or greater productivity there. So I think there is inherent profitability in eating well. It's just moving from where it is now to another pool.
Anything to add, Judy?
Yeah. I don't think we'll ever see big pharma, big food say, we found that meat actually heals, so therefore let's start endorsing that. It really is going to be voting with your dollars and just being a grassroots movement. As everyone said, share your story, show your family, your loved ones that, hey, look at how I'm healing. If you're desperate enough, I just planted a seed, have them eat the meat, and then it just votes with the dollars. And just like how keto has become very, processed over the years, but there's all these big companies now following keto. I hope that one day that more and more people will get into regenerative agriculture and other types of meats, but it starts with us. It starts with every single one of us sharing our stories, sharing our healing, that meat actually heals and it's not something that causes heart disease.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
For the question.
Hello, thank you so much for everything you guys do. I appreciate all of you. My question is for Dr. Stock, though. I have a son who they're saying they want to remove his wisdom teeth. Of course, I did it with my other two, but I'm questioning now. And then also the removal of root canals.
So wisdom teeth removals and root canals.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of nuance here, but I guess we'll start with the big picture, and I'll go fast here. Our wisdom teeth should fit in our mouths. We're the only primates, animals, basically, where all our teeth aren't fitting in our mouths, and they should. And what points to be the reason is this: a few things. One is chewing on mush early on in life. The jaw needs this stimulation to get the full growth out of the jaw to make room for those wisdom teeth. And then secondly is, I believe there's a strong component of nutrient deficiency that goes into the lack of development of craniofacial bones. So I do think early childhood nutrition, as well as prenatal nutrition and from the parents' perspective, is crucially important in optimizing basically early childhood growth. So I guess now to answer the question is, sometimes there's nothing you can do at this point, and the wisdom teeth do need to come out. Sometimes you can leave them in there, they can stay in the bone, be no problem. Sometimes they need to come out. Sometimes, a lot of times, they're coming in impacted, which can lead to decay and other problems. So it's one of those things on a case-by-case basis that an oral surgeon's gonna have to look at. Like a lot of the health profession, they make their money to get those teeth out. So to hammer everything looks like a nail, we should take that out. So there's a component of that. And then the second question is actually, quite controversial, is the root canals. And there's a lot of concern with root canals. And I like to give both sides of the picture. And one is, let's assume you need the root canal. If you don't get it, what's your alternative? Are you going to leave a hole in there? Or are you going to do an implant, which has its own risk? Are you going to do a bridge? Are you going to do a partial? There's these other options that also are not ideal. They have their cost-benefit ratios. So a lot of times people will be like, hey, I had this root canal. It's totally fine. Should I get it taken out? And I'm like, it's totally fine. It's not causing you pain. There's nothing wrong in the x-ray. I'm pretty conservative where I would leave it in there. Some people are like, let's get that out. But there's one of the issues with the root canals, maybe to answer the question, is there's accessory canals. And when they do the root canal, they don't lint all the accessory canals. They're leaving basically a dead tooth in there that could potentially breed bacteria and infection and pain. But I guess to sum this up, the long story is these are two kind of case-by-case things that the ideal situation is have great prenatal nutrition, great childhood nutrition, don't need to get those wisdom teeth taken out because they fit in the mouth, and don't need a root canal because you didn't eat the sugar, the processed carbs that led to the decay that led to the root canal. So that's like the ideal situation. Now, if the problem's already there, then there is nuance that take on a case-by-case basis. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you.
What's up, fam? My name is Courtney. My husband has been eating carnivore for about 2.5 years, and he is a rotational shift worker. I wanted to get your opinion on like an eating schedule, an ideal eating schedule to best support his hormonal health. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
That's a great question. So sleep, hormonal health. Dr. Baker, you want to start with this, and then we can pass it around?
Well, rotational shift work, so he works some nights, some days, he switches all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously that's not a good situation. So obviously the answer would be, if you can get away from that, do it. Now, obviously that's not practical in all cases, but assuming he can't do that, I think when we eat is important, and I think there's a lot of benefit to circadian biology. And personally, I like to eat during the daylight. I don't like to eat late at night. It just kind of is less optimal for me. And so, given that is a fact, what can you do to support that? If he's either going to be sleeping or awake or working, so one or the others. And so you might have to just say, let's try to eat at the same time of the day. Let's say you get 8 hours of sleep, and I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe he gets home at 6 a.m. and sleeps till 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. So it might be try to have an eating pattern during the daylight hours the best you can. And again, it depends how often is he doing nights 1 week out of the month, or is it 3 weeks in a row, or things like that. So if it's flipping back and forth very much, I think ideally if you could, one of the nice things about a carnivore diet, and not everybody needs to do this, nor is it best for everybody, you can get away with eating fairly infrequently because we have such a profound satiety, and this is a long-term ability to go without food with carnivore diets, protein, fat-heavy diets. So you do have the advantage that you can eat relatively infrequently, and so you can probably make that window work for around the shift. Now, if he's going for a month straight of nights, then he might need a different eating time to support his activity. So he might have to eat at 10 o'clock at night or something like that. So as best I can say is try to be as consistent as possible. If you can get away from the night shifts, that's great. I don't think there's an easy solution. I still think what you're eating is the most important thing. All these other factors, how much you eat, how frequently you eat, when you eat, are secondary considerations. So as long as he's eating, healthy food, it's going to be helpful. But like I said, as much as possible, try to keep it in the same time, even if his sleep schedule changes, because it's an unfortunate situation. We're not designed as human beings to be working at night, I don't think. That's just not who we are as a species, unfortunately. We're not owls, we're not nocturnal creatures. So I don't know if there's a real good answer on that.
It's very difficult. All the data shows that people who work shift work, especially rotational shift work, they have health ramifications that increase burden of disease. This is exactly what you're talking about. It just screws with your circadian rhythm and hormonal cycle. Coming from someone who's still currently working, shift work or just all the time work, is that I find that I try to sort of keep a pattern on how I eat in relation to when I sleep and when I work. I feel better. Everyone's differently, but for me, I feel better eating. At the end of the day, if I eat, before I go into work, I just feel a bit more lethargic during the day, especially if I fill up. And so what I like to do is I like to eat after I finish work, and that just makes me feel better. But it might be different for obviously Dr. Baker and your husband. But I try to keep it like that. So if I'm working at night, I'll work at night, and then I'll eat, and then I'll, after I finish up, and then I'll go to sleep, and then sort of repeat that. And then if I'm on different day shifts or whatever, I'll try to sort of keep that pattern in relation to my sleep. But like Dr. Baker said, that's the beauty of the carnivore diet, is that you really don't have to eat that often. You don't have to eat 3-4 times a day like we normally would. I just eat once and I'm good for 24 hours, and it makes it very easy to work horrible hours, which is probably maybe a bad thing, just sort of enabling this horrible lifestyle. But it does make that a lot easier. And for me, I found that just keeping my eating in a relationship to when I'm working out and sleeping seems to work for me. But it's going to be individual. Just see what he thinks, see how he feels, and what's best. You can just tinker with things. You could try just eating at the same time every day without fail. You could try doing it in relation to your sleep pattern or whatever. But the beauty is that you're eating the right food, and you don't need to eat as often. You have a lot more leeway as you would in other situations.
Thank you. Oh, you good?
So I guess one recommendation I'd have is focus on the times that he is having the more normal work schedule. So during those times, make sure he tries to follow that circadian rhythm, get the light in the eyes in the morning, and do all the things. And so use the other levers. Since you're already doing meat-only carnivore, then focus on reducing stress, doing some exercise, and all of the other benefits that then can hopefully balance out that he's working at the night, and try to eat as clean as possible on those times.
Thanks, Courtney.
This question is for Dr. Chaffee. I heard your presentation, I think it was yesterday, and I'm not sure if I misunderstood or misheard. I thought you said that when you get hamburger meat at the grocery store, you have them fix it so that it's 50-50 fat and protein. I didn't know if I misheard that.
No, I did say that. So I do like to get more, fattier ground beef when I get that. Especially in Australia. I mean, they've really, really gone after the lean side of things. I mean, it's almost hard to get ground beef that's less than 90% lean, which just tastes like corn. And so when I go to, if I would get ground beef, I would just ask them to do it like 50-50, but you can do it 60-40, 70-30, whatever you prefer. I like 50-50. I think it just tastes really good.
Well, I thought I was being really extreme by asking Wheatsville Co-op to change their meat from 80-20 to 70-30.
Yeah.
It's either you say 50-50. I'm like, maybe I'll try that.
Yeah. Well, 50-50 fat to meat is roughly 70% calories for fat. And so it's a good ratio for me. I like that ratio, and so that's why I asked for that. And quite often, butchers won't charge for fat because they have these fat scraps that they trim off because people don't want it. The market is that they want lean meat, and so quite often people will go in and say, hey, do you have fat scraps or trimmings or anything like that? And they'll just give it to them for free. My butcher doesn't do that, unfortunately, but that would do that. So that's so. I think the question yesterday was, how do we get sort of more fat content? And that was one of my suggestions, was you could do that. Yeah.
You didn't ask me, but if I was to eat a 50-50 ground beef rendered fat, like all of that liquid fat, I would poop my pants. Like, it's not gonna go well. So I have to work on getting fat in other ways. So no matter the ground beef that I get, I would personally drain the fat and not drink it or eat it, because it wouldn't digest well for me. I would then maybe add butter, or I stick with steaks like chuck eye steaks or something else that's fattier, even like fat scraps that I could crisp up, like he mentioned, would be better for me than just the liquid fat in the ground beef, for instance.
Yeah, just real quick. The thing is too is that if you cook that ground beef like well done, like you drain out all the fat. And so when I do that, I would keep it a very like medium rare to like rare. And so it does still keep most of the body that gets rendered out. So that's a good point.
Thank you for the question.
I was going to say, I must have developed a cast iron stomach because I used to not be able to handle rendered fat, but now I can drink it just fine. So you make it to the point where that works. But I always find too that you really have to, not handle ground beef, because when you compress it, there's no more pockets for the fat to render into and stay inside the burger or the meatball. So, I've really kind of perfected how you handle ground beef, but I am excited to try this 50-50 because I have never done that. And even moving south, seeing the 70-30 is like brand new to me. So, look out for some more, content from me on Instagram on what to do with this fatty burger.
Pork belly.
Oh yeah, pork belly for sure.
I actually came from a background of I'm a tracker. Like I have an analytical background, and I did keto for 2 or 3 years, and I would sit and track everything on MyFitnessPal. And I kind of reached a wall and decided to dabble in carnivore a little bit. And I was sort of wondering how. I guess I had trouble sort of managing it, making sure that I had enough, that I ate enough, because of course carnivore is very satiating. I felt like I wasn't even getting enough calories in. I guess I was mixing philosophies up because I was afraid that my metabolism would slow down. And I don't know, should I just throw the calculator away and then just eat? Because otherwise I wouldn't eat for days. Because I have I also have a small stomach, and I wouldn't really have hunger cues either. So I could easily fast for 2 or 3 days and not eat anything. I don't know if that helps.
Well, just to clarify that question a little bit, are you shooting for any kind of goals or anything? Are you feeling bad, or you feel good?
Well, no, I feel great, and I guess I'm trying to get. I want to change body composition, right? So I want to gain more muscle mass. So of course, I'd be lifting as well in addition to that. But that's the thing. I wouldn't feel hungry.
Yeah,
And I don't I tried to do OMAD, and then I realized that I was only getting 800 calories in a day. I tried to fast for a couple of days, so I was sort of getting confused, I guess.
Sure. I think a lot of it starts with what your goal is.
Yeah.
Because if your goal is I want to put on some mass and size and put on some muscle, basically, fasting for 3 straight days is not a great strategy.
Well, no, but I was waiting until I got hungry, right? But I wouldn't get hungry.
Right. So I do think tailoring the diet to your goals is one thing to consider, but we'll get some other opinions here. But
absolutely.
A lot of times it's throw the calculator away and listen to your body. Those kind of things is where a lot of people should start. But Chaffee, you want to start with us?
Yeah, so I don't think you need to track calories and things like that. If you're eating naturally, you can actually listen to your body's signals. The thing I've said is, if you need a calculator to figure out what to eat, you're probably eating the wrong thing. Nature's natural; it just happens. One of the things with your hunger signals when you go carnivore is that they're radically different. I spoke about this about the leptin, insulin, combatants. That changes when you're eating carbohydrates versus when you're eating carnivore. So when we're eating carbohydrates, we get these signals that we're actually starving to death. We get the signal you have to eat.
Sure.
Then you stop eating that, you start eating naturally, and that goes away. And now you have to actually relearn your hunger signals. So you'll never feel hungry in the same way that you did before. And so what I try to tell people is go by taste. If meat tastes good, it's good for you. If a steak doesn't taste good, it means you're not hungry. But if it does taste good, you are. And I have patients that have a great deal of weight to lose, and they'll put them on a carnivore diet, and after a couple of weeks they come back and they're like, okay, how's it going? And they say, I hate it. I hate this diet. I hate meat. I hate doing this. I have to force myself to eat all this. And I ask them, okay, do you hate eating it, all the time, even right when you begin the meal? And they kind of go no. At first it tastes really good, but halfway through the meal and it just tastes horrible, and I have to force my way through. And it's okay, well that means you're not hungry. That means that's your body telling you that. And especially when you have extra adipose tissue to lose, extra fat to lose, your body is going to be prioritizing that to use as well. So you're going to be using that in conjunction with the food you're taking in. So you don't actually need to take in the amount of calories that you're going to use that day. If you have excess fat to lose, and so that just might be that. So, but I would go by taste. Try eating more than once a day, and if it tastes good, then just keep eating until it stops tasting good, and don't worry about the calculator.
Sure.
I think the eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full is a great place to start, but that doesn't work for me. I'm broken. I can eat all day long. I don't have to be hungry. I don't need any reason to eat. I can just eat. and I will gain weight if I try to listen to my instincts. Like my brain tells me like there's food, you should eat it, or like we could go find food. It's possible. So I personally have to be very regimented about eating during my mealtime as much as I need to in that mealtime, and then like I have to be regimented about how often I eat because I don't want to worry about calories, tracking, that type of thing. And all that being said, I think the number one problem for most women on carnivore is that they are under eating. And I think it's important to track, like eat naturally what sounds good to you, what feels good to you, but you should be tracking to say like, hey, it's been a week and I've only been eating 800 calories. Like that's going to cause you more harm than good over time, even though that's what, like we might have to work on fixing that natural like feeling, because for me it's broken and it's never going to be okay. So I have to make sure that I'm regulating that. And maybe it's, you know, having a couple egg yolks and one white instead of 3 eggs. And that's going to give you more calories with less like volume in that. And like kind of adjusting things like your fat to protein ratio, where I can't live on ground beef because I would get full and then it's not enough calories. I would undereat, which then would stall my weight because I'm under eating. Yeah. And so I don't do ground beef. I stay away from chicken. Like I have to get more bang for my buck in my calories to make sure that I'm eating enough. And while tracking every day would make me crazy, there are times where if my weight's stalled, if my energy's low, I'll just say, okay, what did I eat today? What did I eat yesterday? Like, oh, well, I've had 1,100 calories. No wonder I'm not sleeping well. And I have to kind of readjust then going forward. I like checking in just to make adjustments based on where my current health and goals are.
And I think that the act of tracking and all of the attempts to like fit into the formulas, the instructions that we've been getting, you know, have really disconnected us from our own bodies. You know, you do really have to relearn what the way your body speaks to you and the language of your body. And sometimes that means you've got to put down the tracker, you've got to put down, you know, the MyFitnessPal or whatever it is, so that you can actually just listen to your body. And so, you know, for some people that may mean eating more, for some people it may mean eating less, and that's, you know, that's the art of this way of eating. And it may take, you know, years for you to kind of, you know, learn yourself, you know, to a T. And, you know, from what I've seen from you, Laura, is, you know, this is like an ongoing practice. This isn't you figure out your thing and then you're done. You know, this is ongoing, and for the rest of your life, you're going to be sort of figuring it out. But this should be pleasurable. You know, it shouldn't be anxiety producing. So, you know, whatever you can do to make it more enjoyable is, you know, that's important.
So typically when I work with meat-only clients, they are under eating, and so I actually make them track, but only for a week or two, just to get a sense of how much they should ideally be eating, and then from there, obviously, go with your hunger cues. The problem is that we've been eating the standard American diet for so long that once we start eating a ketogenic version of a diet, we do feel satiated. And then when we start listening to, oh, I need to just stop eating when I feel full, well, we feel satiated all the time. We don't get hangry anymore. And then the problem ends up becoming that, especially for a lot of women, for the first time, we're never hungry. And so we just stop kind of eating, and we eat small amounts, and we still eat maybe a tablespoon more of meat in per meal, but that's really it. But what ends up happening is it catches up to us. 3 months in, people start having hormone issues, thyroid issues, their energy declines. Sure, they may have lost some weight, but then they're complaining that this diet is making them lose their hair and their hormones and their skin, etc. But it's because they've been under eating. And so I highly recommend that maybe just 1 week, just get an idea of what should a plate of meat look like. And then from there, absolutely go by your hunger cues, eat the meats you enjoy. But if you never track, you'll never know if you were eating sufficiently. And I would say that a lot of my clients do eat 800 calories, and I have to really push them to eat like double that. And at first they're really scared because it'll make them gain weight. But if we're doing this for long-term healing, we have to kind of suck it up for just a little bit so that we can optimize this way of eating.
Yeah, when you go from a diet that includes a significant amount of carbohydrates through a carnivore diet. We know that carbohydrates kind of blunt some of the satiety hormones, the effects of CCK, peptide YY, and others. And so you don't have that blunting effect, and so now you having a more profound satiety. Interestingly, there's studies that show that women don't respond to CCK as well as men do, which may explain some of the difference where women's try a little more and do lose weight. But honestly, for a period of time, you have to figure out, like, I often eat when I'm not hungry just because I need to eat a lot to live and just to live in a relatively large body. And so I'll often find myself, I'm not really hungry, but I know I need to eat because I've been doing this for so long. And so you get to a point where you're like, you can kind of, you can, whatever your goal may be, I need more muscle, I need less body fat, I need more weight in general, less weight in general. So, you're hungry, you're profoundly satiated in many cases. And then you have to figure out, so people talk about, well, maybe fatigue, maybe mood are signals that I need to eat more. So you just have to sort of, we're so used to that gut-wrenching, I'm starving, I'm going to eat the next person that walks in front of me type of thing, but you don't get that anymore in carnivore. And so a lot of times I just have to say, and the other thing, you mentioned, I think this is a great thing for anybody in the audience, we should all be, focusing not just on weight loss, but if we, if that's our goal. But I think getting us stronger people, just stronger in general is going to have so many benefits. And so I know, for instance, when I'm training extremely hard and like really pushing my body, I'm starving. I'm literally like, now I'm hungry again. And so it may just be, what are your goals, and say, let's ramp up that aspect of the things, and your hunger will follow that. But yeah, in the beginning, it can be very confusing because you're literally not hungry. And like Judy and others are saying, when you don't take enough calories, bad things happen. And our metabolic rate will drop when we get smaller. It's bigger people have bigger metabolic rates, and smaller people have smaller metabolic rates. And so, that's something that's just going to happen. It really doesn't matter adiposity versus not. It's still a higher metabolic rate. But just maybe not tracking, but like if I'm not getting the results I need, I don't have to weigh. I don't necessarily weigh portions out, but I know. If I eat one ribeye versus two, I know that's the direction I need to go. So it doesn't have to be exact, and you can. Most of the time, it becomes very intuitive. And I like to tell people, my dog doesn't need an app to know when and how much to eat, or neither does any animal out there. And so we really shouldn't either.
All right. Thank you for the question.
Thanks so much.
Hi, I have two questions. One is for the dentist doctor. How do you take care of your mouth? I have a concern regarding mouthwash, and I don't want to kill off my mouth bacteria, the good stuff, because I know that's where real good digestion starts. That's the first question. The second one is for the whole panel with regards to the cost of being a carnivore. I go to the grocery store and I can afford to buy food, but when I look at the price of grass-fed beef, or I go to a rancher and I say, how much do you charge for a pound of grass-fed beef? It's shocking. And now the cost of food is going up. So I don't know where that's going. But anyway, so that's my two-part question.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to lose my dental license, but I'll just give you the lowdown on what I do. So I brush my teeth in the morning just with water. All right, I just lost my license there. So I don't use toothpaste in the morning, but I do it in the evening, but not for reasons most people would expect. So right now I actually do drink coffee, so that's not carnivore. But so for just vanity reasons, I use toothpaste to brush off any stains at the end of the day. But if you're basically eating a carnivore diet, brushing off the plaque from the morning and for breath, like that's fine. But your risk of decay is very small. So regarding the mouthwash was kind of the second part of the first part of the question. I don't use mouthwash. I agree with you. We don't want to sterilize our mouth. We have an important oral microbiome, and just using mouthwash, especially alcohol-based mouthwashes, I don't recommend that. Now it comes down to do I want fresh breath, things like that. So that's another issue. But with regard to oral health, I don't particularly recommend any mouthwashes. Someone has a particular issue going in and out. So if someone has like periodontal disease, sometimes it call for particular mouthwashes like chlorhexidine. But those are kind of outside circumstances. And then regarding the cost, I'll pass to these guys. I know Anthony alluded to a very cheap way to add a lot of calories for meat bases from butcher trimmings, but we can talk about that.
Yeah. Just one thing, focus on there. You were talking about grass-fed beef, and of course that is quite expensive. It's going to be more expensive. I don't eat grass-fed beef all the time. I just go to Costco and I buy in bulk and I get it cheap. You go to a rancher. If you buy direct from a rancher, it's going to be a lot cheaper than even if you go to a butcher. But I definitely feel the best on grass-fed beef. I bought a 10-year-old cow, which was amazing. People don't know that. Like, older cows taste better and they're cheaper. And so, I got a whole grass-fed cow that was 10 years old. It was amazing. And, I felt just charged when I ate this stuff. However, I feel amazing still on, grain-finished beef as well. And, sort of the way I think about it is sort of similar to, that Dr. Baker said, years ago, was that, you think of it like at the Olympics, right? So like a gold medalist, won everything. Silver medal lost to gold, but silver medal still beat everyone else on earth. Okay, so that's how I think of grain finished beef. So grain finished beef is fine, all right. So you don't have to just break the bank just going for a grass fed beef if it's difficult to come by. There are also obviously other cuts. Just getting trimmings from the butcher. Ground beef is going to be much less expensive than ribeye. Ribeye, for instance, has like doubled in price in the last year, but like for some reason New York's haven't. Where I'm at, they're not as expensive. Brisket is a very cheap option as well. So there are a lot of cheaper options, and chuck is a great example of that. Chuck can be a very, very flavorful, fatty cut, and it's a third the price of steak. So there are certainly options, and I wouldn't go out thinking that if you're going to eat meat, you have to eat just grass-fed beef, because you don't. The other point to make is that how much does a pound of steak cost versus a pound of spinach? Like, the spinach is actually more expensive and has no nutrients and has a lot of toxins. So either way, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck. Now, it may look like it's more expensive up front, but you're eating less, you're not going to the doctor, you're not on medications, and you're living longer. And I think in the long run, that's going to be worth a lot more.
My husband is a stay-at-home dad, and I work a normal corporate job, and we are on we are budget conscious for sure. I don't eat grass-fed beef because of the flavor, but also the cost. I can afford to, I stock up when I can, but we get the grocery ads in the mail on Tuesday and the sales start on Wednesday, and we kind of plan our meals around what's on sale that week. We used to just buy the beef that was on sale, but with last year with the prices going up, I incorporate a lot more pork into my diet. I'm eating pork multiple times a week now because it's a lot more affordable. I can still get the fat content in that I need, and I'm able to balance out some of that beef prices. Things like chicken thighs, those are things we incorporate. But I think when we compare the cost of beef, we're looking at the cost of a steak versus the cost of spaghetti and thinking that this is going to cost us so much more. To be honest, I probably used to spend more money on ice cream than I do on steak, like in my previous life, and fast food and the Chick-fil-A for breakfast literally every single day, and the $20 I used to get from the gas station snacks pretty much every day, and then my pint of ice cream at night. Like, we are comparing meal to meal, and it is more expensive, and you're getting more nutrition in that meal. But when I look at my grocery budget week over week, I'm eating now 2 meals a day versus eating 6 times a day, and all of the snacks. Like, a bag of chips is more expensive than a steak, but I'm also I cut out all the snacks. The things in my grocery budget that are expensive are the more specialty keto items that I get for my kids, or the grain-free crackers and those types of things. But just looking at week over week, try to look at week over week versus meal over meal, and I think you'll realize how much more it really does even out. I spend much less money on food, cutting out alcohol, sweets, sugar, and all of the extra things. Think about, where's your money going? Drinks. People spend a lot of money on stuff that they're drinking, and even sparkling waters and those types of things really add up versus just looking at meat. So I would look at the bigger picture for your grocery budget.
And anything to add? I know we got about 5 more questions there in about less than 15 minutes, so we'll probably speed these up just a little bit.
Okay, and I was just gonna jump in and say my allergies were horrible before I was, doing carnivore, and I was taking Benadryl around the clock, Claritin, Flonase, all of that stuff, Mucinex, all that stuff was so expensive. So eating this way, suddenly I knocked out a couple $100 a month from my budget just by the over-the-counter stuff.
Just a tip about oral health, even though you didn't ask me. If you were to open up Spore probiotics or probiotics and swish it around your mouth before intaking it, that can also support your microbiome your oral microbiome. And then in terms of, the one benefit I feel that grass-finished meat does have is the whole regenerative agriculture, if the whole climate conversation. But other than that, from nutritional perspective, I have seen zero difference with my clients. But if you do want to eat grass-finished, I would recommend looking at your local farmers. So for us, our ranchers, I got a quarter steer. We paid, I think, $5.99 a pound, but you get cuts that you don't want. I get that, but I mean, you can support your rancher that way. And then we also purchased a whole hog, and it was pasture raised. And I think that one was also $5.99-ish a pound, but I mean, it has a lot of fat. It's really good. So I would recommend getting a chest freezer, buying meats when they're on sale, and then build that relationship with your local community, because you're also giving the dollar directly to them, and they very much need it.
Yeah, you 100% do not have to eat grass-finished beef to get excellent results with this diet. I've seen it over and over. The data I have on 12,000 people shows that. Once again, Harvard University study showed that. So it's not a requirement. And like Judy said, yes, there's some environmental impacts, and grass-finished label is very deceptive anyway. So sometimes you're paying for merely a label and they're not really making much difference. There is a website. It's called mygroceries.com. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend you look it up. You can just type in meat, mygroceries.com, put in your zip code, and it'll tell you what's on sale. And you can find, you find ribeyes for $5 a pound, and it's a great way to do it. So and of course, buying bulk and all the things people said. But it, back in the day, we're looking, 100 years ago, food was 30 or 40% of the household budget. It's now less than 10%. So we're kind of shifting maybe back to what's more important. Is it, you just may have to make cuts in other areas. I mean, that's the reality of some things. What's more important to you? And good nutrition, in my view, has to be, focus. And maybe you don't need that little, gadget or whatever it might be. So you can save money in other places.
Yeah, and I know Dr. Baker's on a tight budget, so he eats like 24 eggs a day, and that's a cheap way to get a lot of good nutrition as well.
Eggs are good too. Eggs are great. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you. I really got some good points for myself. But major is if somebody asks me about the carnivore diet, I have all these voices that I can pass on to those people, like certain little points that you've just given me. So it's not just for me, it's for everybody else I'll talk to. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Hey everyone, what an incredible segue. So my name is Janae Williams. I'm an advocate for regenerative agriculture. I'm from North Carolina. We got great land there. I connect up regenerative family farms with the community. Just trying to get people back to understanding what nature, that they're in harmony with the earth, So I'm actually the get out of the grocery store girl. Okay, so one of the things though is the struggle with these small regenerative family farms, really needing the support. Last thing we want to do is see lights out on them. So I hear a lot about grassroots, like this room is a powerful room. We're coming through these roots right here in this room. And you guys are huge beacons of light. And shout out to Ade, who really is, just really giving a voice to the African American community. I just really appreciate that. But we've got this grassroots effort. And I look at just all of what's the pressure to eradicate meat, and it scares me. The whole argument with climate is just ridiculous, like completely ridiculous. I don't know, how they can even hear themselves say the things that they say. So I look at 2030, and so I have an impossible question. Are we doing enough? We've got this grassroots. It's great. But how do we stay away from a Beyond Meat future? I don't want the laboratory contrived 2030. What do we need to do? Do we have any officials, somewhat lights that we can see in government that we can kind of come through? Are there organizations that you can share? Let's project, what's success look like?
I know Dr. Baker spent a lot of time on this, and Eddie, if you want to add on to that, then we'll keep it.
Well, in my former life, I come from local politics, so I ran for public office twice. I do think a lot about this, and I think that we need a lobby. We need a lobbying advocacy firm that actually, works with local elected officials, because they're only, and our congressional representatives, and they're only going to do what their constituents say. And, the reality is most Americans do eat meat. Even though there's a lot of talk about, going vegetarian, I think most people are apologetic eat meaters, so what if we can continue to normalize meat eating and actually give space for those people who don't want to give up eating meat, but they're sort of embarrassed, but if we can give them space to actually come together and have some support, then, that's a big lobby that can be, reaching out to their congressional reps saying, hey, I want to eat meat and I want it to be real and I want it to be labeled meat, so that I don't, by mistake, buy some of this other stuff. So I have been thinking about how, a 501c4 could be formed, where you have a real advocacy agency, because I think that's what it's going to take. All of us being out there talking, then supporting, supporting these policies with our votes, with calls to our representatives, and that's really how it has to happen. But somebody has to organize that effort.
Yeah, this is a huge topic and one I'm very passionate about. And thank you for bringing up the point about regenerative agriculture. I think it's important to distinguish that from just the grass-finished labor, because that is having an impact on the environment. And it is an issue. And whether you believe that climate change is real or it's anthropogenically in nature is besides the point. That's what's going to happen regardless. So we're going to have a lot of conversations about carbon footprints. We're going to have food labeled as high carbon, low carbon. That's coming. That's going to happen. Some people, will it be purely informational for people's benefit if they want to eat in that way, or if there's some sort of mandate attached to it, I don't know yet. It's hard to say right now. I think the landscape of the meat industry in the future is probably, the meat industry is not going anywhere in a significant way, in my view. I think what happens is you'll see these alternative markets emerging and enlarging. You'll see more of the Beyond Meat companies, even some of the big packers, Carl, Tyson, JBS, they're getting into the alternative meat space, and they want to just dominate the whole thing. They want to have the entire market. And so these Beyond Meats are going to go out of business. Cardinal and Tyson are going to take over. They're going to run that. There's going to be lab cultured meat. There's going to be air meat, made from fixed nitrogen. All those things are going to emerge. Currently, the meat alternatives occupy about 1% to 2% of the market. So even though they're talking about how much they've grown over the last couple of years, there's still a tiny segment. And the demand for meat is going up. It's projected to go up by 70% over the next 20 years or something like that, with the growth of China and Africa and other nations. And so we still have to feed all those people. So I don't know if the meat industry is going to ever go away. It's probably going to shift around a little bit. There's a ton of money. There's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars coming out of venture capital out of Silicon Valley to support these, alternate protein startups. So that's going there. But the regenerative side of things is also something that is growing for sure. And it'll continue to grow. For those people that actually care about the environment, and most consumers don't, they care about what something tastes like and what it costs. That's the major driving factor for why people choose to eat the way they do. But for those that do, we'll see more and more regenerative agriculture. I think either Tyson or Cargill has partnered with some of the regenerative farms, and so they're going to develop that aspect as well. I think, we've got a study from Harvard University that shows that eating meat cures diabetes. I mean, that is a marketing tool. I mean, I was there presenting in front of the CEO of the NCBA, the National Cannabis Beef Association, the other day. And I said, look, here is your marketing campaign. You just got it. And I think as we all see greater and greater health results from just eating meat, that can be a marketing tool. We should leverage that. And I think, again, like we mentioned, all of us out here just have to continue to use our voices. We now have these crazy, stupid social media things, which are such a waste of time, but they also carry with it the ability to reach a lot of people. And I just think we just have to continue to be vocal. We can't be passive. I mean, that's the one thing we can't do. We can't just quietly assume that someone's going to take care of us, because it's not going to happen. I'm not going to rely on the government. I'm not going to rely on anyone else to do the job, and so we have to do it ourselves. And I think there's, 97% of Americans still eat meat, and around the world it's very similar. Any country that can afford to do so does. I mean, anytime a country gets out of poverty, the first thing they do is they start eating meat because they can finally afford to do so. So it's, as Nassim Taleb says, it's something that's Lindy. Meat is Lindy. We've been eating meat is very successful. It's been around for millions of years because it works really well, and it's going to continue to do so. These novel things they're going to be flash in the pan, and maybe over 10, 20 years they may come in and they fizzle back out. But at the same time, I think it's important to who's going to continue to eat meat? Is it going to be people in different parts of the world, and half of America is going to be plant-based or something like that? I don't think that's going to be the case. But at the same time, you can protect the future generations, because that's what's being marketed to right now. And I mean, most of us in this room, face it, most of us are 40 and over, because most of us are concerned about our health, because we've had health issues. All the kids, the consumers of tomorrow, these 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds are being marketed to, targeted to save the planet, don't eat meat. Look at these poor little pigs being trapped in cages and stuff like that. The emotional weight, once they get caught up into that, and some of you guys, some of the people in here are probably caught up into that, it takes them decades to recover from that. Many of them never do. So we have to not only continue to be vocal about it, we have to influence the younger generations. And I think it's important about the African American community, the Black community, is one thing that pained me when I looked at the Harvard study was 93% Caucasian. I'm like, that's not good enough in my view. I mean, I think we do have to appeal to everybody, because everybody should be eating meat. And I think regenerative agriculture is a big part of that. But again, it's a $1.5 trillion industry. It's not going away overnight. It's not going to go away over the next 3 months. So I think it's important to partner with the meat industry in general and promote beef in general, and not just, there can't be too much fratricide where, we're like, well, only eating grass-finished beef. Anybody who eats stuff in the supermarket is an evil person, because you're kind of cutting you're spiting your face and cutting your nose off to spite your face type of situation. So we just have to kind of promote meat in general, say it's a health food, and then all these other things will fall in place.
All right, thank you for the question. We're out of time. I don't know if we can, I see we have a few questions. If we have time for a rapid fire answer, they say we get rapid fire, or if we can't, I'll be on the side, and I'm sure maybe some others can answer questions, but we'll try rapid fire.
Yes, thank you for everything y'all do. Sunlight, how harmful or helpful is it in your opinion? And my question about organs, being carnivore, do you all, in your opinion, think you have to include organs to be a carnivore, or no?
Does anyone want to jump on the sunlight one? We did talk about the organs earlier, so we can maybe keep that one short.
So sunlight is really important. I don't think it moves the needle as much as your diet, but I think it's really important. Getting as much sunlight to get the vitamin D naturally is super important. I think that the sunblock industry is not ideal, so I do not recommend sunblock. I wrote a whole blog post on all the nuances of the chemicals that are even killing our coral reefs on the sunblocks that we're using. A lot of our skin cancers from sun is actually in areas that we don't even get sun, so it's something to kind of think about. But there's a hormone called melanocyte stimulating hormone. It's primarily activated from your pituitary, and it's from the UVs, and that manages so much of a lot of the functions in your body. So yes, sunlight is super important. The most important thing I'd recommend though is stop all of the sunscreens. And then in terms of organs, we talked about it earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't here.
No, that's fine. And I'm told
TLDR is nobody here advocates the need for organs.
Yes. And we are done. I'm fired as moderator, but I see there's a few more questions, so I'll be over there to answer questions, and we can probably wrangle a couple of these guys too.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoyed this.
Thank you.